I'm pulling up the post that Trevor Lawrence Jr. made because I think this is a wonderful discussion topic.
I think so too.
And I also applaud Trevor for making it because he just posed it as a question, and I think it got blown out of context because I think some people got defensive about it, and that's why I really want to talk to you about it. So Trevor Lawrence Jr. posted, "Are you a professional musician if you only post videos on social media, have never been on tour, and have no recordings released, or are you a social media personality?" So there's some really great comments in here. I went through the comment thread. I think there's some really beautifully written things, and some things came out from defensive from certain people. Maybe they are a social media personality or whatever it may be. But for someone, for myself being in the music industry and being in the internet world and having an app and having a social media network. So I think that both exist. I think there's also a third option, which is where you're falling into, which is a social media personality that is a professional musician.
Or just a drummer who's using social media as a tool.
Yeah, which is great. And I think you could do that. So I think the question of, are you a professional musician if you post videos on, if you only, keyword is what he said.
Only.
Are you a professional musician if you only post videos on social media?
Oh, the only part is the key
is
word.
the key word.
I think people miss that.
And then he even expanded on it saying, you've never been on tour and you have no recordings released. So are you a professional musician if you only post videos on social media and you haven't gone on tour and you haven't gone and done recordings? So very valid question. Or are you a social media personality? And the thing is, I also don't think that saying someone's a social media personality is derogatory.
No, it's not a dig. I don't
it's
think
not a dig. You could
just
totally
an observation.
Yeah. You can be a social media personality. You can be a professional musician. You could be all of the above.
Well, just like you can be a podcast personality. Or
what are you talking about? I'm offended, Greyson.
Sorry.
Get off my
phone.
Bye.
Or a talk show personality, like any of those things.
Yeah, any of those things. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And I think there's nothing wrong for someone like Trevor who, so I think Trevor's saying that because Trevor is a legend in his own right. He's made so many hit records. People don't even realize the level of a producer he is. He's so much more than just a drummer. He's a songwriter and producer. He's had hit #1 albums, right? Like, and singles and all the way to playing at the Super Bowl this last year. So Trevor is a real one, but he's not a social media personality. He's been recently posting more on social media, which I just love because I'm a fan and a friend of his, and I love what he posts. But he's not doing it. He's not doing it for the likes. I think he's just documenting his life, and that's really great. So I think it's awesome that Trevor has his platform. Trevor's platform is his network, right?
100%.
People know, like Dr. Dre, are calling Trevor, right? And that's great, and he has that, and that's amazing. That's why he lives a rich life of being a musician. He's also years and years into his craft, and he's like one of the best at what he does. And then there's, social media personalities. And I know that like Jared Folk from Drumeo, I think got defensive about it. I don't remember the depth of the post, but I remember I watched it when it first happened, and I was like, oh, he just got defensive. And he was like kind of like protecting maybe Drumeo followers that could be offended by it. But I just don't see why you would be offended by this question personally. I think it's an important conversation. So, and I know that Jared Folk like deleted it and did all that because he probably, I don't know, maybe he felt like he was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that or whatever. Or maybe he misread this question. So anyways, I have so much respect for Trevor. I look up to Trevor. He's like a big bro to me. Like I love that. And I think that what Jared Folk has built with Drumeo is admirable. It's amazing. He's built a huge online lesson platform that like thousands of drummers watch and subscribe to. And so good on him for doing that. I just think that, I don't know, my thing would be like, it's okay to be a social media personality. That's totally fine. That's not, you could call me a social media personality. I feel like anybody can do anything. Anybody can do anything.
Why put anybody down?
I guess
as long as somebody's a nice person, why does it matter?
Yeah,
that's like at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to.
Yes, but I think this isn't about are you considered a nice person or not?
Yeah.
Right.
But the putting people down thing is
right.
Yeah,
right. Which Trevor wasn't doing.
No,
he wasn't doing. Like, so I guess my question to you is, do you consider someone a professional musician? Do you consider? Well, see, you became a professional musician, which is I think a beautiful thing. You made your following on social media, and now you're starting to get albums and you're starting to get tours, which takes you out of this question because this says specifically you have never been on tour. If you've never been on tour and have no recordings.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you're not in this category. This isn't at you because you're now touring and doing recordings, right? But I think it's wonderful that you've taken social media as your opportunity to get your foot in the door. And then now you have tour opportunities and you're doing tours and you're making records. So what do you think about this post in general?
I think honestly it's tough because it's like I see what both sides are saying. I see that the side of everybody grows up differently. Everybody has a different experience with whatever profession it is. Now, like I just said, I feel like you should support anybody doing anything, really, at the end of the day. But as long as it's not hurting anybody or offending anybody, but whatever. But there's also a fact of everybody has their own path. You know, there's going to be certain people that have a path of this way or that way or whatever it is. You know, you van tours or you start on a bus or you do this, you do that. You know, me personally, I started playing small gigs in my town at like 11 or 12 and then played gigs all through like middle school and high school. So I was like legit playing for people that would kind of look at you like, are you quote unquote legit if you played real gigs? So yes, legit when I was young. Then like, I'll just speak on me personally because I don't like to speak on other people's behalfs or anything. But for me, at least, my thing was people started to discover me during COVID when I was becoming big on Instagram and YouTube because of it was COVID and I was posting.
Yeah.
And I think that's the confusing part because if you look at somebody and just like, oh, he's just done that, you know, but once you start to dig in and you're saying the whole album touring thing, yeah. So I think there's a certain level of, if you don't have the real life experience of a certain, you know, like as an example, I would never say, oh, I know what it's like to play at the Grammy, you know, award show. Like, oh, no, like I don't know what that is. So why do I have an opinion, you know?
Right.
Just like I would never go around saying like, oh, this is what it's like to be on tour like last summer because I never went on tour before. And I'm not like scared to admit that. Like, no. But is it fair for me now to be like, you know, not flex and not try to like boast, but hey, touring is like this. This is what I've done. I think that's completely fine. Yeah. So I think as long as you're staying in the boundaries of what you actually are doing, you're not lying about what you do, you're not faking it. I feel like if you posted content online that was deceptive, then there's a certain leeway for people to, hey, you kind of are asking people to be a little bit in your butt for saying something.
For sure.
Because imagine if somebody went on and said, I don't know, this is a hypothetical situation. Somebody said, oh, this is what it's like to play in a situation. This is what I do. But they've never done that. I can see why people would kind of be like, no, that's not okay.
Right.
But if you legit do have, you know, proof or whatever you want to say that you've done that or just credibility within circles of people, I don't see a problem.
For sure.
So I think it's a nice balance. I think the part where he says only is the key point that I think everybody missed.
People get so heated online, man.
Because listen, if somebody grows up like, I don't know, imagine if someone was born yesterday and they just magically took a pill and they're like 19 like today or whatever, and they post videos and like they learn drums or whatever in their basement only and they only posted videos, I can see what he's saying.
Yep.
And then imagine they posted something like, this is what it's like to be on tour. It's like, wait a minute, you've never been on tour. What are you talking about? So
100%.
it's complicated, but at the same time, it's almost not complicated. It's like, if you've done it, cool. If you haven't, cool too, but don't speak on that.
David Ryan Harris commented something really amazing in response to that on the post. He said, I'm on the fence. While the old school part of me wouldn't trade anything for the blood, sweat, and tears of being in them streets for 30 odd years, I do try to see the value in the new paradigm if for no other reason I don't get left in the dust or become one of those back in my day people.
Thank you.
That being said, I do think, one, there is a level of vulnerability that these social media players have to be comfortable with, whereby their audience can and will tell them in no uncertain terms if they hate their content.
100,000%.
We were just talking about. Nobody ever came up to me and told me I sucked to my face, and I'm pretty sure I would have deserved it on more than one occasion. And two, I think about what it means to inspire and be inspired. If I come across a lick, a vocal phrase, a chord progression, or a rhythm that inspires me to create something new or challenges me to practice and aspire to be something higher, then the origin doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I found a dusty piano bench or my late father's record collection or in a sweaty nightclub. All of that being said, a lot of these kids are trafficking in musical empty calories, but I don't fault the delivery system. I love this debate.
That's probably the best comment on the whole post.